Good morning, everybody. I wanted to do this video earlier this month, but a lot has been going on. And so, since it's still September, I thought I would do it today. Uh, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and I did have a fundraiser going on my Facebook for the suicide hotline. Now, if you don't really know much about suicide, or what leads to suicidal tendencies, or even thoughts and actions, and unfortunately sometimes successes. Um, don't ever be afraid to reach out to somebody. It it's hard to reach out, but if you can talk about what you're going through, it does make it a little bit easier. Don't be ashamed for feeling that way. It's sometimes it's normal, some people get a thought like, why am I here? But other times it's more than that. It's deeper. You have underlying issues, depression, drug abuse, alcoholism, or even other undiagnosed problems that lead to it. Now, I myself have struggled in the past with suicidal ideas. I've had attempts. Thank God they weren't successful attempts, but they were still attempts. I've had um plans set into place. I've been all over the place in my head. Like, my head has told me I'm worthless. I'm not worth it here, that everyone, everything would be better off without me. And it I'm still going through therapy for a lot of underlying issues. And at one point now, I'll have a drink here and there, but I'm very much a alcoholic. And I know they say that if you're an alcoholic, don't drink at all, but I've gotten to the point where I don't fully even like the taste half the time. I like fruity stuff. But like, for my birthday, I just went out and I had one drink with my mother and my sister. Um, and that was for my birthday this month. And it's easier now. I can have a simple drink and not want to indulge to the point of blackouts and not knowing what I'm doing for the day, or waking up and having a drink, or spending the whole day drinking with a bunch of people. And it's been a change, and it took a long time to even get to that point, because there are times where bad things have happened in my life, and the first thing I did was grab a drink. But then there was something significant that happened, and someone was trying to get me to drink to feel better and relax. And I felt like I had to feel all the pain that I was going through. And personally, I think that kind of helped with why I don't drink all the time anymore. My husband's definitely helped me change my views of alcohol, um, and what it does to you. not just internally, your organs and everything else, but it's a mental sickness as well as a physical sickness. And you when you're depressed, you're looking for something to fix it. And a lot of times people go from alcohol or hard drugs, and they think they're working through it, and excuse me, and it's not a healthy way to work through anything. Now, as far as alcohol goes, it's harder, and it's because we look at people who are doing hard drugs like heroin and crack and cocaine and all, even pills. Like, we look at them and it's not socially accepted, but alcohol is. And when you're an alcoholic and you're surrounded by people who want to drink all the time, it makes it harder to quit, and it makes it harder to be uh, better for yourself. Now, I don't have a lot of people in my life that drink all the time anymore. And so when I have a social drink, it's usually with my family or with my husband, and we don't drink. Like, my husband will buy a case of maybe wine coolers, and we'll each have one, and half the time I can't even finish mine anymore. It's um it's not in me these days, and it's been a long time since I've had suicidal thoughts or tendencies. um, I'm on medication for my mental health, and I'm going through therapy, and I've discovered a lot of things that have traumatized me in my past that I was trying to hide with that. And a lot of the problems that I went through, even in my adult life, not just my childhood, but a lot of the problems that I went through were making me numb, and I looked for ways to feel better um, about myself, and I wasn't feeling better. Sorry about that. I wasn't feeling better about myself, even with um, drinking or, even smoking weed. I quit smoking weed, and that's my medication. Like, I'm prescribed it, but it's hard to find strands that don't activate my paranoia. So I just don't smoke anymore. Now, if you yourself are going through these things, it's okay to talk about it. Talk to somebody, anybody that you feel you can trust. And don't be afraid to listen to what they have to say. Sometimes it's going to be harsh. You know, Sometimes it'll make you feel even worse about yourself before you feel better. You got to find what your triggers are. You got to find what's hurting you deep down inside. You got to find what makes you want to live. You got to find what makes you want to feel better. And I'm still working on those things myself. You know, um, I have reasons that I want to live, but I don't feel better about me yet. And my therapist is still trying to find ways to help me feel better about myself. My husband is always trying to make me feel better about me as a person, as an individual. as a wife, as a mother, as, you know, whatever, an artist. Um, one of my biggest supporters in my photography, my painting, my even my little crafts. Like I will take trash and turn it into something new. And excuse me. And those are my outlets. Like those are things that help me to focus on things that are more positive. Some of my artwork is not positive work. I have one painting that is, it's called The Dying Sun, and it's depressing. But a lot of people love that painting. They think it's the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. And I'm like, okay, like I'm glad you're able to take my horrible emotions and look at it and see something beautiful, because when I made that painting, it was the worst time that I was going through. I had gotten out of the hospital. I was just not okay at all. And the painting itself was an expression of that. And excuse me. And today I received a cry for help, and I'm waiting to hear back from this person. And it's insane because that wasn't even the reason I'm doing this video. I like I said, I wanted to do it a while ago, but I didn't know where to start. Um, I thought my fundraiser would be the thing to bring awareness, but sometimes you just need to talk about it. And, being someone who has had these tendencies since childhood, like I've had suicidal thoughts since the age of 10 years old, tendencies as I got older, which led to alcoholism, and then attempts after I stopped drinking and before I started actually going through therapy, excuse me, with a therapist that I can finally trust. And that's another thing too, is therapy, just because they're a therapist doesn't mean they're going to help you. You need to find a therapist that's right for you. Someone who understands you, who's going to work with you, who's not going to judge you, who's not going to make you feel like the things that have happened in your life are your fault. You I mean, yeah, a lot of things are your fault. Your choices make a big difference. Things that you do alter your journey in this life, but at the same time, there's a lot that it wasn't your fault. And those are usually the things that lead us to drugs and alcohol. And I'm going to go back to alcohol a second, because one thing is if someone is trying hard to stop drinking, to understand themselves, and to work through their depression and the problems that they've had throughout their life, you can't force them to have a drink just because it's socially okay. Um, the the way I see it now is I'll always be an alcoholic. I mean, there are times where I'm like, oh, a drink. But as long as I'm having a drink, one drink, and it's with somebody that I can trust, that's going to let me know you don't need any more, I'm okay. But I don't trust myself to be alone with a bottle because that bottle would be gone within barely an hour. And I used to drink all the hard stuff because that hits fast and it clouds your mind and it makes everything go away. But it doesn't go away until because when you wake up tomorrow, it's still there and you're going to want to drink again and again and again until you figure out what's going on with you. And when you figure out those underlying causes, I'm not saying that, drinking again is good. I'm saying that sometimes you can be a social drinker, but don't overdo your limits. Now, the only reason social drinking is accepted is because you can have a drink and not be an alcoholic. You can't do hard drugs and not be a drug addict. You know, a lot of people, they get clean and then they go back to drugs and unfortunately wind up committing an overdose suicide, which is known as suicide. Uh, Even though it's involuntary, terribly suicide, they kill themselves um, by accident. So, alcohol and hard drugs, people put a bias on both of them. And if you're a drinker who has one drink here and there, you know, or if you're someone who drinks constantly to fill a void, that void isn't going to go anywhere until you stop drinking and start thinking. And I'll always inside be an alcoholic. My therapist, he told me, he was like, there's nothing wrong with a celebration drink. He said, but that's all you should do it as a celebration drink. He said, he said, I know what you used to do in your past. He was like, but having a social drink now and then isn't an issue as long as you can keep yourself in the mindset of knowing what you're doing. See, if you're drinking to a blackout, you're not socially drinking. You are openly hiding a wound. And some people think it's hilarious. Like, oh my God, look at this party person. They're getting messed up. They can't handle their alcohol. They this, they that, or um, oh, they're the life of the party because they're always the ones to have the alcohol, bring the alcohol, drink the alcohol, make everyone laugh. I know people who used to feel that way about me. And when I stopped drinking, it was around the time I first met my husband. And he was like, you're not okay. And I didn't see it as that. I'm over 21 years old. I'm allowed to drink if I want to drink, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. But he was right. And he told me too. He was like, you're going to stop drinking and you're going to lose a lot of people. And I did. I lost everybody that I knew. And a lot of those people, there was no alcohol in my fridge or my freezer. They never came back. I can't speak on drugs, except for the fact that I, one, know people who struggle with it. I know addicts, and my father was an addict. And my father passed away right after I turned 4 years old, back in '89. So I turned four in September, and in December of '89, he had a drug overdose and he died by accidental suicide, is what they call it. So I never got into drugs because I did want to be there for my children, but I didn't want to live at the same time. That's conflicting. It's really hard to go through the things that I went through personally and not want to numb it. And I'm not saying that what I went through is worse than what you're going through. Everybody's going through something that's going to eat them inside. And even if you're of sound mind, you're still struggling. I don't care who you are, you're struggling. It's how you deal with your struggles that make you okay or not okay. Now, I know I know some people who have been an alcoholic, they can't touch it anymore because they know as soon as they even look at it, they're going back to who they were. And I'm to the point where if I have one drink, I'm already tipsy. You know, that's the social part of it, though. That's what it's. Prohibition made it where it's okay to be tipsy, but people still talk about the town drunk, the town alcoholic. And if that's you, then think about other things. There are other ways to get out your pain. There are other ways to work on your problems. Suicide suicide is a very very touchy topic in our country. Like I said, a lot of people think it's just a cry for attention. I want everyone to pay attention to me. It's me, 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 me. It's actually the opposite. Um, it's wanting to be away from everyone. It's isolation. It's feeling like you're not worth anything in this life. It's hurting so deeply that the people around you fade. Even right in front of you, they fade because you yourself don't feel like you're okay to be here. It's not a cry for attention, it's a cry for help. So if you know somebody who struggles with depression, check on them because you don't know what point of depression they're in. And if you're somebody struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts, tendencies, um, actions, if you have a freaking plan, reach out to a friend. Go to the hospital if you need to. There's no shame in that. Go to the hospital. Get a therapist. Make your life worth it because you are worth it. And always remember that. So, I know this was all over the place and I didn't mean it to be, but I just didn't know exactly how to word it without putting my experiences in it. So I hope that this helps somebody and that, you guys all understand where I'm coming from. Peace.